obispo will lead the chamber in prayer.
Sa ngalan ng Ama, ng Anak, ng Espiritu Santo. Amen. Panginoon na lumikha sa lahat, pagpalain mo po kami at ang aming bayan. Pag-isahin mo po ang nagkakawatak-watak. Pagkasunduin ang may hidwaan. Bigyan ng puwang ang kapayapaan. Ingatan ang aming mga kababayan, ilayo sila sa panganib, sakit at sakuna. Busugin at palusugin ang mga nagugutom at nanghihina. Gabayan mo kami tungo sa kadakilaan at kabanalan. Gawin mo kaming kasaya-saya sa iyong harapan. Amen. Sa ngalan ng Anak, ng Espiritu Santo. Amen.
Amen. The Imus Institute of Science and Technology Pitch Choir will lead us in singing the Philippine National Anthem, and then they will also render a song entitled Waray Waray. Salamat po. Secretary, please call the roll.
The Honorable Senators Angara,
Thank you.
Aquino, Binay, De Lima, Delon, Elsito, Escudero, Gatchalian, Gordon, Honasan, Hontiveros, Lacson, Ligarda, Pacquiao, Pangilinan, Po, Recto, Soto, Trillanes, Villanueva, Villar, Suveri, Senate President Pimentel.
Sino absent? Okay. With 20 senators present, the chair declares the presence of a quorum.
Mr. President,
Majority Leader.
I move that we dispense with the reading of the journal of the 57th session, Wednesday, February 14, 2018, and consider the same as approved.
Is there any objection to the motion? Hearing none, motion is approved.
Mr. President, I move that we defer the reference of business for a later time because of the numerous third reading bills that we have to take up.
Any objection to the motion? Hearing none, approved.
Before we start, Mr. President, I'd like to acknowledge guests of the Senate. We have the 33 Student Council leaders of Oriental Mindoro, headed by Vice Governor Merlito Bons Atienza Dolor of Oriental Mindoro, and also the visitors of Senator Subiri, Mr. Arthur Acot, the Philippine Air Force, Orlando Tacuyan Jr., General Constancio, and Nathaniel Montealto. Welcome to the Senate, Mr. President.
Welcome to all of our guests. Welcome.
Mr. President, I move to consider for third reading PS Resolution 613 under Committee Report 235.
Page 4 number. Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
May we request the Secretary to read the title of the measure, Mr. President?
Resolution concurring in the ratification of the agreement between the Government of the Republic of the Philippines and the Government of the United Mexican States for the avoidance of double taxation with respect to taxes on income and the prevention of fiscal evasion.
Mr. President, printed copies of the measure were distributed last February 15, 2018, thereby complying with the three-day rule. So I move to vote on third and final reading proposed Senate Resolution 613, the resolution concurring in the ratification of the agreement between the Government of the Republic of the Philippines and the Government of United Mexican States for the avoidance of double taxation in respect to taxes on income and the prevention of fiscal evasion through a roll call vote, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, the motion is approved and we will proceed to the roll call vote.
The Honorable Senators Angara, Aquino, Binay, De Lima, Drilon, Ejercito, Escudero, Gatchalian, Gordon, Honasan, Ontiveros, Lacson, Ligarda, Pacquiao, Pangilinan, Po, Recto, Soto, Trillanes, Villanueva, Villar, Suviri, Senate President Pimentel.
With 20 affirmative votes, 0 negative votes, Senate Resolution number 613 is approved on third reading.
Mr. President, I move to consider for third reading PS Resolution 614 under Committee Report 236.
Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
May we request the Secretary to read the title of the
Secretary,
measure?
please.
Resolution concurring in the ratification of the agreement establishing ASEAN +3 Macroeconomic Research Office.
Mr. President, printed copies of the measure were distributed last February 15, 2018, thereby complying with the three-day rule. I therefore move to vote on third and final reading proposed Senate Resolution 614, resolution concurring the ratification of the agreement on establishing ASEAN +3 Macroeconomics Research Office, AMRO, through a roll call vote.
Any objection? Hearing none, approved. Secretary, please do so.
The Honorable Senators Angara, Aquino, Binay, De Lima, Drilon, Ejercito, Escudero, Gatchalian, Gordon, Honasan, Hontiveros, Lacson, Ligarda, Pacquiao, Pangilinan, Po, Recto, Soto, Trillanes, Villanueva, Villar, Subiri. Senate President Pimentel.
With 20 affirmative votes, 0 negative vote, Senate Resolution number 614 is approved on third reading.
Mr. President, I move for the consideration for third reading of PS Resolution 615 under Committee Report 237.
Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
May we request Secretary to read the title of the measure?
Resolution concurring in the ratification of the convention between the Government of the Republic of the Philippines and the Government of the Kingdom of Thailand for the avoidance of double taxation and the prevention of fiscal evasion with respect to taxes on income.
Mr. President, printed copies of the measure were distributed last February 15, 2018, thereby complying with the three-day rule. I therefore move to vote on third and final reading proposed Senate Resolution 615, a resolution concurring in the ratification of the convention between the Government of the Republic of the Philippines and the Government of the Kingdom of Thailand for the avoidance of double taxation and prevention of fiscal evasion with respect to taxes on income through a roll call vote.
Any objection? Hearing none, approved. Go ahead, sir.
The Honorable Senators Angara, Aquino, Binay, De Lima, Dulon, Ejercito, Escudero, Gatchalian, Gordon, Honasan, Ontiveros, Lacson, Ligarda, Pacquiao, Pangilinan, Po, Recto, Soto, Trillanes, Villanueva, Villar, Subiri, Senate President Pimentel.
With 20 affirmative votes, 0 negative votes, Senate Resolution number 615 is approved on third reading.
Mr. President, I move for the consideration for third reading of PS Resolution 616 under Committee Report 238.
Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
May we request Secretary to read the title of the measure?
Resolution concurring in the accession to the Convention on Cybercrime.
Mr. President, printed copies of the measure were distributed last February 15, 2018, thereby complying with the three-day rule. I therefore move to vote on third and final reading proposed Senate Resolution 616, a resolution concurring in the accession to the Convention of Cybercrime through a roll call vote, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
The Honorable Senators Angara, Aquino, Binay, De Lima, Drilon, Ejercito, Escudero, Gatchalian, Gordon, Honasan, Ontiveros, Lacson, Ligarda, Pacquiao, Pangilinan, Po, Recto, Soto, Trillanes, Villanueva, Villar, Subiri, Senate President Pimentel.
With 20 affirmative votes, 0 negative votes, Senate Resolution number 616 is approved on third reading.
Mr. President, I move to consider for third reading PS Resolution 617 under Committee Report 239.
Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
Secretary will please read the title of the measure.
Resolution concurring in the ratification of the convention between the Government of the Republic of the Philippines and the Government of the Democratic Socialist Republic of Sri Lanka for the avoidance of double taxation and the prevention of fiscal evasion with respect to taxes on income.
Mr. President, printed copies of the measure were distributed last February 15, thereby complying with the three-day rule. I therefore move to vote on third and final reading proposed Senate Resolution 617, resolution concurring in the ratification of the convention between the Government of the Republic of the Philippines and the Government of the Democratic Socialist Republic of Sri Lanka for the avoidance of double taxation and prevention of fiscal evasion with respect to taxes on income through a roll call vote, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
The Honorable Senators Angara, Aquino, Binay, De Lima, Drilon, Ejercito, Escudero, Gatchalian, Gordon, Honasan, Ontiveros, Lacson, Ligarda, Pacquiao, Pangilinan, Po, Recto, Soto, Trillanes, Villanueva, Villar, Subiri, Senate President Pimentel.
With 21 affirmative votes, 0 negative votes, Senate Resolution number 617 is approved on third reading.
Mr. President, I move to consider for third reading the following Senate and House bills, all pertaining to the establishment, separations, and conversions of the primary, secondary schools and SUCs in various parts of the country, to be voted individually as we do. But right now, move to consider House Bill 5578, 6102, 6104, 6522, 6528, 6531, 6532, 6533, 6534, 6535, 6607, 6608, 6529, 6530, Senate Bill 1617, House Bill 6186, 6202, 6203, 6465, and 6523.
Any objection? Hearing none, the said measures are now under consideration.
May we request the short title of the measures, Mr. President?
Okay, Secretary will read the short title of all the said measures.
Short titles of all,
Yes, short
Mr.
title
President.
for the information of our colleagues, because we're going to consider them for third reading.
House Bill number 5578, an act separating Magtoma National High School, Dupligan Annex in Barangay Dupligan, Municipality of Tanodan, Province of Kalinga, from the Magtoma National High School. House Bill number 6102, an act establishing a national high school in Barangay Lingunan, Valenzuela City, to be known as Lingunan National High School. 6104, an act converting the Licop Elementary School in Barangay Licop, Mati City, Province of Davao Oriental, into an integrated school to be known as Licop Integrated School. House Bill number 6522, an act establishing a national science high school in Barangay Bagumbayan, Balanga City, Province of Bataan, to be known as Balanga City National Science High School. 6528, an act separating the Liloy National High School, Patawag Extension in Barangay Patawag, Municipality of Liloy, Province of Zamboanga del Norte, from the Liloy National High School, converting it into an independent national high school to be known as Patawag National High School. 6531, an act establishing a national high school in Barangay Sibulan, Torel District, Davao City, to be known as Mount Apo National High School. 6532, an act establishing a national high school in Barangay Talisay, Municipality of San Isidro, Province of Davao Oriental, to be known as Talisay National High School. 6533, an act establishing a national high school in Barangay Corporacion, Municipality of Lupon, Province of Davao Oriental, to be known as Corporacion National High School. 6534, an act establishing national high school in Barangay Magdog, Municipality of Governor Generoso, Province of Davao Oriental, to be known as Magdog National High School, and appropriating funds therefore. 6535, an act establishing a national high school in Barangay Digon, Municipality of Margos Satubig, Province of Zamboanga del Sur, to be known as Digon National High School. 6607, an act separating the Lawa National High School annexed in Barangay Lapuan, Municipality of Don Marcelino, Province of Davao Occidental, from the Lawa National High School, converting it into an independent national high school to be known as Luisa Joyce Malyari National High School. 6608, an act separating the Fishing Village Comprehensive National High School annex in Barangay Mana, Municipality of Malita, Province of Davao Occidental, from the Fishing Village Comprehensive National High School, converting it into an independent national high school to be known as Benjamin Velasco Bautista Senior National High School. 6529, an act separating the Calawit National High School, Pianon Annex in Barangay Pianon, Municipality of Calawit, Province of Zamboanga del Norte, from the Calawit National High School, converting it into an independent national high school to be known as Pianon National High School and appropriating funds. Therefore, 6530, an act establishing a national high school in Barangay Katigan, Turel District, Davao City, to be known as Katigan National High School. 1617, an act converting the Davao Oriental State College of Science and Technology in the city of Mati and all its satellite campuses located in the province of Davao Oriental into a state university to be known as the Davao Oriental State University. 6186, an act integrating the Dr. Emilio B. Espinosa Sr. Memorial State College of Agriculture and Technology campus learning site in the municipality of Kawayan, province of Masbate, as a regular campus of the Dr. Emilio B. Espinosa Sr. Memorial State College of Agriculture and Technology, to be known as the Dr. Emilio Espinosa Sr. Memorial State College of Agriculture and Technology, Kawayan Campus. 6202, an act establishing the South Cotabato State College in the municipality of Sorala, province of South Cotabato, integrating therewith the Sorala National Agriculture School located in the municipality of Sorala. 6203, an act converting the Sorsogon State College in the province of Sorsogon into a state university to be known as the Sorsogon State University. 6465, an act converting the Northwestern Mindanao State College of Science and Technology in the city of Tangob, province of Misamis Occidental, into a state university to be known as the University of Northwestern Mindanao. 6523, an act renaming the Ramon Magsaysay Technological University as the President Ramon Magsaysay State University, expanding its curricular offerings and strengthening its governing board, amending for the purpose Republic Act 8498 entitled An Act establishing the Ramon Magsaysay Technological University out of the integration of the Ramon Magsaysay Polytechnic College in the municipality of Iba, the Western Luzon Agricultural College in the municipality of San Marcelino, and the Candelaria School of Fisheries in the municipality of Candelaria, all in the province of Zambales.
Majority Leader.
2009.
Mr. President, printed copies of the measure, of all measures mentioned, were distributed last February 15, thereby complying with the 3-day rule. I now move to pass on third and final reading through a roll call vote the House bills. And of course, we have to pass it individually. This is a third reading bill. So therefore, I move to vote on third and final reading House Bill 5578 under Committee Report 198.
Any objection? Approved. Secretary.
The Honorable Senators Angara, Aquino, Binay, De Lima, De Rilon, Ejercito, Escudero, Gatchalian, Gordon, Honasan, Hontiveros, Lacson, Ligarda, Pacquiao, Pangilinan, Po, Recto, Soto, Trillanes, Villanueva, Villar, Soberi, Senate President.
With 20 affirmative votes, 0 negative vote, House Bill number 5578 is approved on third reading.
Mr. President, I move to vote on third and final reading House Bill 6102 under Committee Report 199.
Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
The Honorable Senators Angara, Aquino, Binay, De Lima, De Rilon, Ejercito, Escudero, Gatchalian, Gordon, Honasan, Hontiveros, Lacson, Ligarda, Pacquiao, Pangilinan, Po, Recto, Soto, Trillanes, Villanueva, Villar, Soberi, Senate President Pimentel.
With 20 affirmative votes, 0 negative vote, House Bill number 6102 is approved on third reading.
Mr. President, I move to approve on third reading House Bill 6104 under Committee Report 200.
Any objection? Hearing none, approved. Secretary.
The Honorable Senators Angara, Aquino, Binay, De Lima, Drilon, Ejercito, Escudero, Gatchalian, Gordon, Honasan, Ontiveros, Lacson, Ligarda, Pacquiao, Pangilinan po, Recto, Soto, Trillanes, Villanueva, Villar, Suveri, Senate President Pimentel.
With 20 affirmative votes, 0 negative vote, House Bill number 6104 is approved on third reading.
Mr. President, I move to vote on third and final reading House Bill 6522 under Committee Report 201.
Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
The Honorable Senators Angara, Aquino, Binay, De Lima, Drilon, Ejercito, Escudero, Gatchalian, Gordon, Honasan, Ontiveros, Lacson, Ligarda, Pacquiao, Pangilinan po, Recto, Soto, Trillanes, Villanueva, Villar, Suveri, Senate President Pimentel.
With 20 affirmative votes, 0 negative vote, House Bill number 6522 is approved on third reading.
Mr. President, I move to approve on third and final reading House Bill 6528 under Committee Report 202.
Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
The Honorable Senators Angara, Aquino, Binay, De Lima, Drilon, Ejercito, Escudero, Gatchalian, Gordon, Honasan, Ontiveros, Lacson, Ligarda, Pacquiao, Pangilinan po, Recto, Soto, Trillanes, Villar, Villanueva, Villar, Suveri, Senate President Pimentel.
With 20 affirmative votes, 0 negative vote, House Bill number 6528 is approved on third reading.
Mr. President, I move to vote on third and final reading House Bill 6531 under Committee Report 203.
Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
The Honorable Senators Angara, Aquino, Binay, De Lima, Drilon, Ejercito, Escudero, Gatchalian, Gordon, Honasan, Ontiveros, Lacson, Ligarda, Pacquiao, Pangilinan po, Recto, Soto, Trillanes, Villanueva, Villar, Suveri, Senate President Pimentel.
With 20 affirmative votes, 0 negative vote, House Bill number 6531 is approved on third reading.
Mr. President, I move to approve on third and final reading House Bill 6532 under Committee Report 204.
Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
The Honorable Senators Angara, Aquino, Binay, De Lima, Drilon, Ejercito, Escudero, Gatchalian, Gordon, Honasan, Ontiveros, Lacson, Ligarda, Pacquiao, Pangilinan po, Recto, Soto, Trillanes, Villanueva, Villar, Suveri, Senate President Pimentel.
With 20 affirmative votes, 0 negative vote, House Bill number 6532 is approved on third reading.
Mr. President, I move to approve on third and final reading House Bill 6533 under Committee Report 205.
Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
The Honorable Senators Angara, Aquino, Binay, De Lima, Drilon, Ejercito, Escudero, Gatchalian, Gordon, Honasan, Ontiveros, Lacson, Ligarda, Pacquiao, Pangilinan po, Recto, Soto, Trillanes, Villanueva, Villar, Suveri, Senate President Pimentel.
With 20 affirmative votes, 0 negative vote, House Bill number 6533 is approved on third reading.
Mr. President, I move to approve on third and final reading House Bill 6534 under Committee Report 206.
Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
The Honorable Senators Angara, Aquino, Binay, De Lima, Drilon, Ejercito, Escudero, Gatchalian, Gordon, Honasan, Ontiveros, Lacson, Ligarda, Pacquiao, Pangilinan po, Recto, Soto, Trillanes, Villanueva, Villar, Suveri, Senate President Pimentel.
With 20 affirmative votes, 0 negative vote, House Bill number 6534 is approved on third reading.
President, I move to approve on third and final reading House Bill 6535 under Committee Report 207.
Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
The Honorable Senators Angara, Aquino, Binay, De Lima, Drilon, Ejercito, Escudero, Gatchalian, Gordon, Honasan, Ontiveros, Lacson, Ligarda, Pacquiao, Pangilinan po, Recto, Recto, Soto, Trillanes, Villanueva, Villar, Suveri, Senate President Pimentel.
With 20 affirmative votes, 0 negative vote, House Bill number 6535 is approved on third reading.
Mr. President, I move to approve on third and final reading House Bill 6607 under Committee Report 208.
Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
The Honorable Senators Angara, Aquino, Binay, De Lima, Drilon, Ejercito, Escudero, Gatchalian, Gordon, Honasan, Ontiveros, Lacson, Ligarda, Pacquiao, Pangilinan po, Recto, Soto, Trillanes, Villanueva, Villar, Suveri, Senate President Pimentel.
With 20 affirmative votes, 0 negative vote, House Bill number 6607 is approved on third reading.
Mr. President, I move to approve on third and final reading House Bill 6608 under Committee Report 209.
Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
The Honorable Senators Angara, Aquino, Binay, De Lima, Drilon, Ejercito, Escudero, Gatchalian, Gordon, Honasan, Ontiveros, Lacson, Ligarda, Pacquiao, Pangilinan po, Recto, Soto, Trillanes, Villanueva, Villar, Suveri, Senate President Pimentel.
With 20 affirmative votes, 0 negative vote, House Bill number 6608 is approved on third reading.
Mr. President, I move to approve on third and final reading House Bill 6529 under Committee Report 210.
Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
The Honorable Senators Angara, Aquino, Binay, De Lima, De Relon, Ejercito Escudero, Gatchalian, Gordon, Honasan, Ontiveros, Lacson, Ligarda, Pacquiao, Pangilinan po Recto, Soto, Trillanes, Villanueva, Villar, Suveri, Senate President Pimentel.
With 20 affirmative votes, 0 negative vote, House Bill number 6529 is approved on third reading.
Mr. President, I move to approve on third and final reading House Bill 6530 under Committee Report 211.
Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
The Honorable Senators Angara, Aquino, Binay, De Lima, De Relon, Ejercito Escudero, Gatchalian, Gordon, Honasan, Hontiveros, Lacson, Ligada, Pacquiao, Pangilinan po Recto, Soto, Trillanes, Villanueva, Villar, Suveri, Senate President Pimentel.
With 20 affirmative votes, 0 negative vote, House Bill number 6530 is approved on third reading.
Mr. President, I move to approve on third and final reading Senate Bill 1617 under Committee Report 224.
Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
The Honorable Senators Angara, Aquino, Binay, De Lima, De Relon, Ejercito Escudero, Gatchalian, Gordon, Honasan, Ontiveros, Lacson, Ligada, Pacquiao, Pangilinan po Recto, Soto, Trillanes, Villanueva, Villar, Suveri, Senate President Pimentel.
With 20 affirmative votes, 0 negative vote, Senate Bill number 1617 is approved on third reading.
Mr. President, I move to approve on third and final reading House Bill 6186 under Committee Report 226.
Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
The Honorable Senators Angara, Aquino, Binay, De Lima, De Relon, Ejercito, Escudero, Gatchalian, Gordon, Honasan, Ontiveros, Lacson, Ligarda, Pacquiao, Pangilinan po, Recto, Soto, Trillanes, Villanueva, Villar, Suveri, Senate President Pimentel.
With 20 affirmative votes, 0 negative vote, House Bill number 6186 is approved on third reading.
Move to approve on third and final reading House Bill 6202 under Committee Report 227.
Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
The Honorable Senators Angara, Aquino, Binay, De Lima, De Relon, Ejercito Escudero, Gatchalian, Gordon, Honasan, Ontiveros, Lacson, Ligarda, Pacquiao, Pangilinan po Recto, Soto, Trillanes, Villanueva, Villar, Suveri, Senate President Pimentel.
With 20 affirmative votes, 0 negative vote, House Bill number 6202 is approved on third reading.
Move to approve on third and final reading House Bill 6203 under Committee Report 228.
Any objection? Approved.
The Honorable Senators Angara, Aquino, Binay, De Lima, De Relon, Ejercito Escudero, Gatchalian, Gordon, Honasan, Ontiveros, Lacson, Ligarda, Pacquiao, Pangilinan po Recto, Soto, Trillanes, Villanueva, Villar, Suveri, Senate President Pimentel.
With 20 affirmative votes, 0 negative vote, House Bill number 6203 is approved on third reading.
Move to approve on third and final reading House Bill 6465 under Committee Report 229.
Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
The Honorable Senators Angara, Aquino, Binay, De Lima, De Relon, Ejercito Escudero, Gatchalian, Gordon, Honasan, Ontiveros, Lacson, Ligada, Pacquiao, Pangilinan po Recto, Soto, Trillanes, Villanueva, Villar, Suveri, Senate President Pimentel.
With 20 affirmative votes, 0 negative vote, House Bill number 6465 is approved on third reading.
Move to approve on third and final reading House Bill 6523 under Committee Report 230.
Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
The Honorable Senators Angara, Aquino, Binay, De Lima, De Relon, Ejercito Escudero, Gatchalian, Gordon, Honasan, Ontiveros, Lacson, Ligada, Pacquiao, Pangilinan, po Recto, Soto, Trillanes, Villanueva, Villar, Suveri, Senate President Pimentel.
With 20 affirmative votes, 0 negative vote, House Bill number 6523 is approved on third reading.
Mr. President, I move to consider for third reading Senate Bill 1317 under Committee Report 100.
Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
May we request the Secretary to read the title of the measure?
an act strengthening compliance with occupational safety and health standards and providing penalties for violations thereof.
Mr. President, printed copies of the measure were distributed last February 15, 2018, thereby complying with the 3-day rule. I therefore move to approve, to vote on third and final reading, Senate Bill 1317 through a roll call vote.
Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
The Honorable Senators Angara, Aquino, Binay, De Lima, De Leon, Ejercito, Escudero, Gatchalian, Gordon, Onasan, Ontiveros, Lacson, Ligada, Pacquiao, Pangilinan, Po, Recto, Soto, Trillanes, Villanueva, Villar, Soveri, Senate President Pimentel.
With 20 affirmative votes, 0 negative votes, Senate Bill number 1317 is approved on third reading.
Mr. President, Senator Villanueva wishes to be recognized.
Mr.
Senator
President,
Villanueva.
thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. Majority Floor Leader. Just a short manifestation. Mr. President, we thank our colleagues, especially our Senate President, Senator Coco Pimentel, our Minority Floor Leader, Senator Frank Drilon, our Majority Floor Leader, Senator Soto, and the rest of this August Chamber for approving as we pass the Occupational Safety and Health Standards Bill on third and final reading, because we are the People's Senate, a Senate who cares for ordinary Filipinos, especially workers. Mr. President, December 23, 2017, isang araw po bago magbispiras ang Pasko noong isang taon, gumimbal po sa buong bansa ang sunog na lumamon sa ikatlong palapag ng NCC Mall sa Davao City. Sa ikaapat na palapag, naroon po ang mga empleyado ng Survey Sampling International o SSI na isang BPO company. Mabilis po na kumalat ang apoy, makapal at nakakasalukasok ang maitim na usok. 37 mga call center agent ng SSI ang hindi nakalabas. Nakulong sa mga toilet at locker room at binawian po ng buhay. All because of the absence, Mr. President, of a functioning sprinkler system and fire exits. All because of the reckless disregard for the lives and safety of our workers. All because of the absence of a comprehensive workplace safety law. Mr. President, kasama pong namatay sa sunog ang leader po ng inyong lingkod sa KKB movement. Worship leader po siya ng JIL doon po sa Davao, sa Matina chapter. Quality Assurance Manager ng SSI. Ang pangalan po niya ay si Mary Joy Hope Daluro. Panganay po sa dalawang magkakapatid, breadwinner ng pamilya. Isa po siyang leader at personal na kakilala natin, Mr. President. At alam ko po kung gaano kasakit hanggang ngayon sa kanyang mga magulang, kay Pastor Dong, sa kanyang asawa, kay Chad, sa kanyang kapatid, ang kanyang sinapit. Mr. President, her death would not be in vain. Those who perish in more than 200 fatal workplace accidents since 2014 would not be in vain. Katumbas po ng pagsuporta natin dito sa Senate Bill 1317, ang pagkilala sa ating mga manggagawang nagbuwis ng buhay at nagdala sa atin sa makasaysayang araw na ito. Sa 5 manggagawang namatay doon po sa sunog sa House Technology Industry Factory sa Cavite noong February 2017. Sa 72 manggagawang nagbuwis ng buhay sa sunog na lumamon sa Kentex Factory noong 2015 of May. Sa 9 na manggagawang nalibing ng buhay sa pagguho ng open pit coal mining ng Semarara Mining Corporation sa Caluya, Antique noong July 2015. Marami pa pong iba, Mr. President. Subalit ang dekadang peligro at disgrasyang kumitil sa buhay ng ating mga manggagawa ngayon po matutuldukan na. Today, we stand up for safety. Today, we stand up for our workers' rights. Today, we stand up for the lives of each and every single Filipino who toils to give his or her family and loved ones a better life. Mr. President, I hope that the people who love Mary Joy Daluro and other victims of workplace accidents in this country will find a little comfort in knowing that this Senate cares, that we care, and that we have passed Senate Bill 1317 on third and final reading. Muli, tagumpay po ito ng mga manggagawang Pilipino. Maraming salamat, Ginoong Pangulo. Maraming salamat po sa ating lahat.
Mr. President, I move to consider for third reading Senate Bill 1636 under Committee Report 213.
Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
May we request the Secretary to read the title of the measure?
An act requiring public telecommunications entities to provide nationwide mobile number portability to subscribers.
Mr. President, printed copies of the measure were distributed last February 15, 2018, thereby complying with the three-day rule. I therefore move to vote on third and final reading Senate Bill 1636 through a roll call vote.
Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
The Honorable Senators Angara, Aquino, Binay, Dili Madrilon, Ejercito Escudero, Gatchalian, Gordon, Honasan, Hontiveros, Lacson, Ligarda, Pacquiao, Pangilinan, Paul Recto, Soto, Trillanes, Villanueva, Villar, Zuberi, Senate President Pimentel.
With 20 affirmative votes, 0 negative votes, Senate Bill number 1636 is approved on the third reading.
Mr. President, I move for the consideration for third reading of Senate Bill 108 under Committee Report 81.
Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
May we request Secretary to read the title of the measure?
An act declaring April 27 of every year as a special working public holiday throughout the country to commemorate the victory of Lapu-Lapu and his men over the Spaniards led by Ferdinand Magellan in the historic Battle of Mactan on April 27, 1521, to be known as Lapu-Lapu Day or Adlaw ni Lapu-Lapu.
Mr. President, printed copies of the measure were distributed last February 15, 2018, thereby complying with the three-day rule. I therefore move to vote on third and final reading Senate Bill 108 through a roll call vote.
Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
The Honorable Senators Angara, Aquino, Binay, De Lima, Drilon, Ejercito, Escudero, Gatchalian, Gordon, Honasan, Ontiveros, Lacson, Ligarda, Pacquiao, Pangilinan, Po, Recto, Soto, Trillanes, Villanueva, Villar, Zuberi, Senate President Pimentel.
With 20 affirmative votes, 0 negative vote, Senate Bill number 108 is approved on third reading.
Mr. President, Senator Risa Ontiveros wishes to be recognized on a matter of public interest.
Senator Ontiveros is recognized.
Salamat kaayo, Mr. President. Salamat po, Majority Leader. Mr. President, I rise on a point of personal and collective privilege. Let me be quick and to the point. On February 13th, 2018, I received a copy of a motion to admit supplemental complaint affidavit, and to implead David Kyle P. Venturillo as one of the respondents in connection with a wiretapping case filed against me by Mr. Vitaliano Aguirre, incidentally the incumbent Secretary of Justice. The said motion is an attempt of Mr. Aguirre to support his contention that I, supposedly in concert with a photographer who was working at my behest, deliberately and with premeditation, sought to capture the contents of his mobile phone in acts tantamount to a violation of Republic Act 4200 or the Anti-Wiretapping Act. We are respecting legal processes and responding to the charges filed against me by Mr. Aguirre, as well as the other charges filed by his cohorts. What deeply concerns me is the involvement of the Senate as an institution, in this case filed by Mr. Aguirre against me in his personal capacity, and the willingness of the office of the Senate President to abet a witch hunt, not just against me, but against a 23-year-old consultant of my office, Kyle Venturillo. Naka-attach po sa motion na isinumite ni Ginoong Aguirre ang lahat ng correspondence niya sa Office of the Senate President, gamit ang letterhead ng Department of Justice, may barcode at control number ng DOJ, may mga pirma ni Ginoong Aguirre at ng kanyang heya na si Attorney Jolas Brutas. Sa mga sulat na ito, hinihingi po ni Ginoong Aguirre ang mga sumusunod. October 5, 2017, request for footage of the entire hearing of the Committee on Public Order and Dangerous Drugs dated September 5, 2017, and lists of all members of the media, photographers, and staff present during the hearing. October 9th, 2017, request coursed through Mr. Ronald Munsayak, Chief Political Affairs Officer of the Office of the Senate President, of CCTV footage of the entire 5th floor from 12 noon to 2 p.m. and the Senate ground floor, lobby, and entrance from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m., including the Senate elevators inside and outside. October 19th, 2017, request again coursed through Mr. Munsayak for all event photos of the Senate media taken on the September 5th hearing. January 30th, 2018, request coursed through the Chief of Staff of the Office of the Senate President, Daniel Solomon, requesting for confirmation as to whether or not David Kyle Venturillo was or is connected to the Senate, and additionally requesting for copies of her personal data sheet, identification cards, pertinent personnel records, and photographs. To each of these requests, the Senate, through the leadership of the Senate President, simply complied. Attached as Annex C is the affidavit of the Section Chief of the Integrated Electronics and Technical Section of the Office of the Sergeant-at-Arms of the Senate, attesting to the authenticity of 7 DVDs turned over to the Department of Justice, covering the 2nd floor, 5th floor, and ground floor of the Senate premises on September 5th, 2017, and the session hall during my privileged speech on September 11th, 2017. Attached likewise is the transmittal letter of the Senate Sergeant-at-Arms transmitting said CCTV tapes to Mr. Aguirre. Finally, complying with the request for a copy of Ms. Venturillo's records, a memorandum with the letterhead of the Senate Sergeant-at-Arms was attached, confirming that Ms. Venturillo was issued a Senate Security Pass for 2017. Nais ko pong i-manifest na ni minsan ni hindi ako sinabihan tungkol sa mga requests na nabanggit. Bilang miyembro ng kapulungang ito, ni minsan, hindi binigay sa akin ang kortesiya na sabihan na yung mga personal records ng staff ko ay tinitignan at pinapaalam sa iba. Mr. President, at the outset, I'd already warned about the inherent impropriety of the Secretary of Justice filing a case against me or conniving with individuals to file cases against me, where investigation will be conducted by the prosecutor's office, which is under the supervision and control of the DOJ. I anticipated that the SOJ would use the weight and might of his office to influence prosecutors below him in the conduct of preliminary investigation. Sadly, I did not anticipate that the SOJ would also be using the weight and might of his office to try to influence an independent institution like the Philippine Senate and use it for a fishing expedition against those whom he perceives to be his enemies. Mr. President, it would behoove this august chamber to remember that there was no judicial order to release the CCTV footage, the list of media personnel covering the hearing, or the personal records of Ms. Venturillo. There was no subpoena. The Senate was under no legal compulsion to release the documents requested. The letters were but personal letters from Mr. Aguirre, who is, for all intents and purposes pertinent to his request, merely a party litigant to a case and not acting in his capacity as the Secretary of Justice. Sa makatuwid po, we have a party litigant who happens to be the SOJ, using his office, not just its might and weight, but also its resources to support his personal agenda. And the Senate allowed it to happen. Sa bagay, kung ordinaryong mamamayan ka, mahirap tanggihan pag letterhead ng Secretary of Justice ang gamit ng humihingi ng dokumento. But I thought, mistakenly, that the Senate could hold its own. I was disturbingly wrong. Secondly, Mr. President, I'm concerned about the cavalier attitude of the Office of the Senate President towards the rights of Ms. Venturillo, the employees of the Senate, and members of the media. I support the principles of freedom of information, and these must be balanced with the privacy rights of individuals, particularly the privacy of ordinary Filipinos. Let me draw your attention to Section 7B of EO number 2, series of 2016, which states that Each government office must protect personal information in its custody or control by making reasonable security arrangements against leaks or premature disclosure of personal information which unduly exposes the individual whose personal information is requested to vilification, harassment, or any other wrongful acts. FOI is for transparency and accountability. It is not a weapon to be used to bully ordinary citizens like Ms. Venturillo and expose their personal information for possible intimidation. The National Privacy Commission, on the specific question of whether or not personal data sheets of a government employee should be released, stated that in all cases, the rights of the data subject should be respected, including the right to be informed and notified on the use of his personal data. I am curious as to whether Ms. Venturillo was notified that there were inquiries being made about her and that the Senate had supplied Mr. Aguirre with her information. If an individual employee or consultant of the Senate is slapped with a baseless criminal complaint, can the adverse party now go to the Senate without even a subpoena and quietly request for copies of personal data sheets, personal records, photos, and other information with the expectation that such request will be granted and the other party not notified? We would have opened a Pandora's box, Mr. President. What if I filed a case against the Senate President? I wonder if I could now just go to the Senate Sergeant at Arms and clandestinely ask for personal records of the office of the SP without the SP being informed? Or do different rules apply when the requesting party is the Secretary of Justice and the data subject is a neophyte opposition senator? Nakakabahala po ang pagsuko ng Senate President sa institutional integrity ng Senado. When I learned about it last Tuesday, I immediately wrote the Senate President and copy-furnished other Senate officials. The Senate President has not responded in 5 days. I am therefore constrained, as a concerned member of this House, to follow it up on the floor now. The institutional integrity of this chamber is at stake. Does this not call for corrective action on behalf of the senators, the Senate employees, and the Senate itself as an institution? Mr. President, nasaan ang tapang at integridad na kailangan ng institusyong ito sa ilalim ng kanyang pamunuan? Ganito na ba tayo sa Senado ngayon? Salamat po.
Thank you. Majority Leader, if I may be allowed to respond. And,
Yes, Mr. President.
So, no, I will ask someone to take my place while I'll respond from the floor. Yes. Session suspended for a few seconds.
Session is resumed.
Mr. President, the Senate President wishes to be recognized.
Senate President Coffee Mindel is recognized.
Since allow me to respond to the privileged speech of our colleague, because I happen to be the subject matter of her speech. I'd like to apologize for failing to respond to your February 13 letter, because I'm kind of under the weather, so I was not able to focus on this. Unfortunately, Mr. President, the good senator has her facts wrong, because the gist of the charge is that personal information, personal data sheets were released and circulated and given. Nothing like this happened. when the confidential letter of Secretary Aguirre was received by my office, I only saw one letter. I immediately referred it to the Office of the Senate Legal Counsel for legal opinion. And the opinion given was that almost all of the data or information being requested are public documents or public information. So that opinion probably guided the different departments of the Senate when OSAA released footages and then an application for an ID. I think these were the only two documents or items responded to by the Senate. No personal data sheet was ever released. As a matter of fact, the question was whether David Kyle P. Venturillo is a staff of the senator. And my office actually released a negative certification that she is not because at that time she was not yet your staff, but now I think she is already a part of your staff. So, well, the general way of thinking that we had was that an incident happened in the Senate, which according to one party amounted to a crime. So in the process, this party has the burden of proving his theory, so he's asking for items, documents, which he can possibly use, and these have been characterized as public documents. So that was the general flow, but it's unfair to charge my office or this representation of, according to your letter, compromising the security of your staff. We did nothing to do that. No personal data sheets were released. It was actually a negative certification which was released that telling them that Ms. Venturillo is not, was not, at that particular point in time, not a part of your staff. So just to clear everything, so I was intending to answer your letter also in writing, but let this be my answer to you, Madam Senator. So this is all that happened, my dear colleagues.
Mr. President, if I may, 3 points in response to the Senate President's response. First of all, those matters that the Secretary requested in his personal capacity, they are public knowledge. But can any Tom, Dick, and Harry just come off the Senate sidewalk or grounds to ask for copies of the CCTV of our session hall, of the corridors, of the elevator, of our offices, and be given these? Secondly, if they were such innocent requests and they were such innocent compliances, why did the Senate President not even inform me, the other party in that criminal case, since these requests started coming in one after the other in October, 4 months ago, Mr. President, a quarter, a third of a year ago, and not one notice that, by the way, the party to the case who is accusing you of a crime is asking for additional so-called evidence against you. And third, Mr. President, also attached to the supplemental motion to admit supplemental complaint affidavit were screenshots of Ms. Venturillo's Facebook page and various posts of her on social media. That kind of special compliance given to the personal requests of a complainant who just happens to be the Secretary of Justice without informing the subject of the complaint in whose office this young person works, has now potentially exposed her to harassment, to bullying, to trolling online, as the screenshots of her Facebook page already show. Mr.
So,
President.
Mr. President, well, I don't think I am, or my office is, or the Senate is to blame for the Facebook postings of Ms. Venturillo. If your life is online, then you can be researched. I mean, that's not but the effort to identify the identity of the alleged photographer was not done by this representation, my staff, or the Senate. It was done by the investigators of the complainant. But the basic factual scenario here is that an incident happened in the Senate which one party alleges to amount to a crime, and he is asking for documents to help him build up his case, which documents happen to be public documents. That is the basic outline of the facts. And for not informing the good senator, it was a letter which was labeled strictly confidential, so that was my personal judgment. I did not also want to now betray the confidential nature of the letter. And in effect, it was not, there was no suspect that we were pointing to. It was a request for information, the identity. They arrived at by their own investigation. So this is not an effort against Venturillo. That was the conclusion of the investigators of the complainant, looking at the footages, consulting, I think, a professional photographer, and they arrived at this identity. So this is all that, these are all the basic facts, my dear colleagues, Madam Senator.
Mr. President, may I just reiterate a couple of the basic facts, that the request of January 30th, 2018 was for confirmation as to whether David Kyle Venturillo was or is connected to the Senate, and the compliance with the request for a copy of Ms. Venturillo's records. It was a compliance, and that compliance confirmed that she was issued a Senate security pass for 2017. The investigation was not conducted by the Office of the Senate President, but they were the recipient. It was the recipient of the request starting 4 long months ago, Mr. President. And there was no courtesy extended to inform this representation about those requests. And even less and more importantly to me was the concern for a Senate consultant, a Senate employee in her right to privacy. Mr. President,
Just last,
I have no
last
enough
word.
words to express what I
Last-
think and feel about this.
The last input I can give to this subject matter is that when that request was made, the office was ready to issue a negative certification that name, David Kyle P. Venturillo, is not a staff of the good senator. That's it.
Yes, Majority Floor Leader.
Yeah, for the enlightenment of some of us, did I hear that right? What is the Senate President saying? That the first letter sent by the DOJ Secretary asking if this person, Ms. Venturillo, was
An employee.
an employee of the Senate, and she was not.
She's not at the time, but now I think
When was
circumstances
this?
have changed.
So during the time that this so-called picture was taken, she was not an employee of the Senate.
Yes, because when was that hearing? I forgot
And then when the letter was asked, she was not, and you issued the certification that she was not an employee.
Yes.
But she's now an employee.
I think February, we can ask the good senator if she changed the status of that person to an employee. I think February 1, 2018.
And your letter was, and your letter in answer to the DOJ Secretary was, what date, Mr. President?
No, it was a response to his last letter. Because at that particular point, I think they have already identified the person from the CCTV footages. So I don't have the date, Majority Leader.
Anyway, Mr. President,
Yes.
if there is nothing else, I move
Yeah.
that the privileged speech and the ensuing manifestations be referred to the Committee on Rules, Mr. President, so
Mr.
that we can
President.
sift through this.
Before we move on the motion of the good majority leader, just one final statement.
Yes, Senator Risa.
Over and above everything else, Mr. President, this is not about the prized courtesy among us, among colleagues here in the Senate. That's important. Even more important, I think, is the respectful space we give to work, to fellow Filipinos who work with us in our legislative tasks as part of a separate and co-equal branch of government, as part of the legislature. To not expose them to risk, whether they were consultants before and are employees now, to make them collateral damage of so-called case build-up amounting to witch hunt against a member of this House. Most importantly of all, Mr. President, it is about upholding at every moment the integrity of the Senate as an institution, not demeaning or devaluing that stature by being complicit in hostile actions, even if they be by members of other branches of government. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Ontiveros. Is there any objection on the motion of the Majority Floor Leader to refer the speech and the manifestations and statements in the Committee on Rules? Is there any objection? The Chair hears none. The motion is carried. Session is suspended for a minute.
Mr. President, I'm sorry. Ready to resume, Mr. President.
Session is resumed.
Senator Pangilinan wishes to... take
Senator
the floor.
Pangilinan, second.
Yes, Mr. President. Mr. President, since the matter has been referred to the Committee on Rules, I would just like to make a manifestation that perhaps the Committee on Rules can consider recommendations should a similar situation happens involving other senators, because this may happen, Mr. President, and affect other members of the Senate. So that we would like that to be considered when the committee convenes or meets. Thank you, Mr. President.
Yes, Mr. President, we will assure our colleagues that we will gather the facts and recommend to the body the findings or whatever is should be taken, steps should be taken, Mr. President. So I move to resume consideration of Senate Bill 1233 under Committee Report Number 8.
Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
Mr. President, this is the measure on the Coconut Farmers and Industry Development Act. The parliamentary status of the measure is that we're still in the period of individual amendments, considering this is a substitute bill. So I move to open the period of individual amendments.
Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
May we recognize the sponsor, Senator Francis Pangilinan, Mr. President.
The sponsor, Senator Pangilinan, is recognized.
And to introduce amendments, Mr. President, the Majority Leader, and thereafter Senator Gatchalian, Senator Villanueva. Tomorrow it will be Senator Recto's turn, Mr. President.
Okay, the sponsor has been recognized, and now we recognize the Majority Leader for his amendments.
Mr. President, will the distinguished gentleman from Pampanga listen to some or proposed amendments, Mr. President?
Willingly,
Probably
Mr.
consider.
Willingly, Mr. President, to the Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I will try to simplify this, go direct to the proposal before a full motion so that we would be able to inform the members on... this is a very simple amendments, Mr. President. So let me go on. Page 5, line 20. I will propose to delete the word immediately upon, and in lieu thereof, insert the phrase within 90 days from. Now, let me continue before I propose it to the distinguished gentleman so that it is complete. Still on the same page in line 23, after the word control, add the phrase which is not subject to any dispute. Now, it will continue now to page 6, line 1. That will technically insert a new paragraph that shall read as follows. In a situation where the coconut levy asset is the subject of a pending case, its reconveyance shall be made within 90 days from the finality of judgment in the said case. So that, as a omnibus proposal, Mr. President, Section 5 of the proposed measure shall now read as Section 5. Reconveyance, if ever the gentleman will accept the amendments. Reconveyance of coconut levy assets within 90 days from the effectivity of this act. The PCGG, the government, representatives to the boards of sequestered/surrendered corporations, and any government agency or person having any coconut levy asset in its administration, authority, custody, or control, which is not subject to any dispute, shall perform or cause the performance of the following, which already incorporated 1, 2, and 3. Then after that, in a situation where the coconut levy asset is the subject of a pending case, its reconveyance shall be made within 90 days from the finality of judgment in the said case. The COA shall conduct an audit to determine compliance with pertinent laws, rules, regulations, reconveyance of the coconut levy to the Republic of the Philippines. If that is acceptable to the gentleman, Mr. President.
May we have a minute suspension, Mr. President?
And Majority Leader, your proposed amendments are quite lengthy. Do we have a written copy?
Yes. Perhaps we can...
May I have a 1 minute suspension,
Session
Mr. President?
suspended. No, really.
Dalawa. Senate President.
With the understanding that this does not...
may sakit. May sakit.
JB. Mr. President,
Session is resumed. Mr. Majority Floor Leader.
Mr. President, after conferring with the sponsor, I will withdraw my my initial proposal, and I move to withdraw first, Mr. President.
Is there any objection? Chair hears none. Motion's carried.
May I now introduce the amendments as agreed? Let me start on page 5, line 23. I will no longer touch line 20, Mr. President. After the word control, add the phrase, have been finally declared by the Supreme Court as belonging to the government.
Accepted, Mr. President.
Is there any objection? Chair hears none. Motion's carried.
And then on page 6, line 1, insert, provided that no temporary restraining order, TRO, or any injunction order can be issued by the Supreme Court.
Except by the Supreme Court.
Is there any objection?
Except by the Supreme Court.
What's the sponsor say?
Accepted.
Is there any objection?
Issued except by the Supreme
Chair
Court.
hears none. Motion's carried.
That's about it, Mr. President. May I now move to recognize Senator Gatchalian for his individual amendments.
Senator Sherin Gatchalian is recognized to introduce
Thank you to the
amendments.
Majority Leader, Mr. President, for allowing this, for these amendments. We will now yield to Senator Gatchalian.
Senator Gatchalian is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. And just as a brief explanation of this amendment, Mr. President, as the chair of the Committee on Energy, we've been religiously hearing topics about biofuels and the promotion of biofuels here in our country. And we came to know that the biofuels industry needs a little push in terms of feedstock and generating feedstock for the processing plant, Mr. President. This is a good opportunity to insert some provisions that will mention biofuels in the said bill and hopefully recognize the importance of the biofuels industry here in our country. So with that, Mr. President, let me propose some amendments. On page 7A, line 29M, insert a comma after the word development. And then on line 29N, delete the word and before the word encourage. And then on line 29O, insert a comma after the word production, and then insert the phrase and increase productivity to meet feedstock demand for biofuels, such that the entire paragraph will now read, projects and activities relating to shared facilities and farm improvements shall be implemented to support community development, comma, encourage community nurseries, comma, processing facilities, and fertilizer production, comma, and increase productivity to meet feedstock demands for biofuels, period. Also move, Mr. President.
What does the sponsor say?
Okay naman. Accepted. We accept the proposed amendment.
Is there any objection? Chair hears none. The motion is carried.
And then on page 8, Mr. President, line 17A, insert the phrase, the Department of Energy, after the comma, and before the word the. I so move, Mr. President.
Sponsor say?
No objection. We accept.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. The motion's carried.
And lastly, Mr. President, on page 9, line 18, after the word government and before the period, insert the phrase colon provided, comma, that the plan shall take into account the feedstock demand for biofuels and other existing policies on the use of coconuts. I so move, Mr. President.
No objection, Mr. President. We accept.
Is there any objection? Chair hears none. The motion's carried.
Thank you, and I thank the good sponsor for accepting the proposed amendments. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
1 minute suspension, please.
Ikaw naman ang mag-preside. And then we suspend kasi uy, kala ko.
Ready to resume, Mr. President.
Session resumed.
May we now recognize Senator Joel Villanueva for his individual amendments.
Senator Villanueva is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Majority Floor Leader. Thank you, Mr. President. This is an amendment that we talk about during the interpellation of this particular measure. And if I may introduce on page 8, line number 18. After
May I
Yes.
page?
page 8,
Yes.
line number 18.
Line number 18. Go ahead, please.
After the word education and the punctuation comma, insert the word the Technical Education and Skills Development Authority. Then add the punctuation comma. So move, Mr. President.
Accepted, Mr. President.
Any objection? Motion carried.
Last but not the least, Mr. Chairman, on page 9, after line number 25, page 9 after line number 25, add the paragraph. This is just a one sentence, Mr. President. The plan shall also include strategic and inclusive training programs dedicated for our coconut farmers based from a comprehensive review of existing training programs. I so move, Mr. President.
We accept, Mr. President.
Any objection? Amendment carried.
Thank you very much, and I thank the good sponsor for accepting these amendments. Thank you, Mr. President.
We thank the good senator for proposing them, Mr. President.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. President, there is one more member who wishes to introduce individual amendment. So, with the indulgence of the sponsor and our colleagues, I move to suspend consideration of Senate Bill 1233 for tomorrow, and finally, Senator Recto will be able to introduce his individual amendments, and hopefully we can terminate the period, Mr. President.
Any objection? Motion is carried.
Well, thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Majority Leader. We'd like to thank our colleagues for their proposed amendments today, and that we will call it again tomorrow. Maraming salamat po.
Mr. President, I move to consider Senate Joint Resolution number 6 under Committee Report 27.
Is there any objection? Motion is carried.
Mr. President, this is the measure declaring January 17 of every year as James Leonard Tagle Gordon Day. And the parliamentary status is that we're in the period of interpellations, Mr. President. I have not received any notice that they will interpellate, so I move to close the period of interpellation, Mr. President.
Any objection? And the motion is carried.
I move to open the period of amendments.
Any objection? Motion is carried.
There are no committee amendments. There are no individual amendments. I move to close the period of amendments, Mr. President.
Is there any objection? Motion is carried.
Mr. President, I move to approve on second reading Senate Joint Resolution number 6 under Committee Report 27.
Any objection? Motion is carried.
Move to suspend consideration of Senate Joint Resolution number 6 under Committee Report 97, Mr. President.
Is there any objection? Motion's carried.
May house. May house. Hindi. Oo. Oo, sa local. Nila. Bill. Oo nga. Joint resolution. Second reading. Joint resolution. Anyway. Hindi, tapos. Second reading.
Okay na yun. Okay na yun.
I move to resume consideration of Senate Bill 1574 under Committee Report 161.
Is there any objection? Motion's carried.
Mr. President, this is the proposed measure on Philippine Energy Research and Policy Institute.
1 minute suspension.
Ay, hindi, tapos na.
Oo. Wala. Balang, hindi ko alam pati yung date.
Ito na. Iahabol din nila.
Hindi na pa bukas? Bilis naman. Wow.
Ito na. Sa'yo. Yung Philippine
Salamat
Energy
for
Research.
reminding.
Mr. President,
Yes, session is resumed.
Yes, as I mentioned, this is the Philippine Energy Research and Policy Institute. Parliamentary status of the measure is that we are in the period of interpellation, so I move to recognize the sponsor, Senator Sherwin Gatchalian, and to interpellate the Minority Leader, Senator Frank Drilon.
The sponsors, Senator Sherwin Gatchalian, is now recognized, and the Minority Floor Leader, Senator Franklin Drilon.
Thank you, Mr. President, and ready to accept some inquiries from our good minority floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Will the gentleman sponsor yield to a few questions on the period of interpellation?
Yes, Mr. President, I'll be more than happy to receive some questions, Mr. President.
Mr. President, at the outset, let me congratulate the good sponsor for highlighting the need for a research and policy office. Because I know that one of the shortcomings that we have in our environment today is that we devote a very negligible portion of our national budget to research. Compared, for example, to countries like Malaysia, Thailand, even Vietnam, and certainly Japan, Taipei, the government resources that is devoted to research as a component of the entire maintenance and operating expenses of the government is very minuscule. And in a sense, we could attribute that lack of budget support to many of our shortcomings in the various fields of economic activity. Having said that, we would like to raise a few questions on the need for a energy research and policy institute. So the first question is, the objectives of the law is found on section 4, the objectives of the institute. On section 4 of the proposed measure, it's basically to conduct policy research on energy issues. That is the raison d'etre for the policy institute. The rest are simply elaborations of the principal objective of a policy research on energy issues. Now, the first question is, don't we have an existing policy and planning bureau in the Department of Energy?
Yes, Mr. President. And let me just put slide number 2, Mr. President, as an illustration, Mr. President. Right now, Mr. President, the Department of Energy is our sole policymaker when it comes to energy and the power industry, Mr. President. So, in short, Mr. President, the Department of Energy comes up with the policy, develops the research materials to substantiate that policy, and executes that policy, Mr. President. However, there is, in our hearings and in our analysis, it is only the Department of Energy that conducts heavy research regarding energy and the power sector. I don't know of any independent organization that conducts and balances the policies of the Department of Energy. This bill, Mr. President, will establish an independent think tank that will be, in effect, becomes the sparring partner of the Department of Energy when it comes to energy policy and research.
So
Mr. President, I remember when I went to Germany, and we were given a tour and an explanation of their energy sector in Germany. In Germany, there exist numerous different energy think tanks based on universities. Other ones are independent. And these think tanks, in effect, becomes the sparring partner of their Ministry of Energy. It balances the policies, it checks the policies and the research of their Ministry's Energy, and it collaborates and gives sound and independent advice also to government. So with that concept in mind, Mr. President, what we want to develop is a sparring partner for the Department of Energy, so that the Department of Energy somehow will hone its skills, hone its research, and give us very sound policy in the future, Mr. President.
I regret, Mr. President, that that can justify an expense of at least 200 million pesos a year. I think what is more important is that the members of the Research Council should be able to provide research without any conflict of interest, so that the research materials and results will really reflect the need of our energy sector. My thesis, Mr. President, with all due respect, is that if we strengthen the Energy Policy and Planning Bureau of the Department of Energy, we can achieve the objectives without necessarily expanding our bureaucracy, expanding our bureaucratic expense. Because we look at Republic Act 7638, which created in 1992 the Department of Energy. One of its, the objectives of the department, particularly its Energy Resource and Developmental Bureau, is to conduct, and I'm quoting from the law, Section 12, Paragraph A3, the Energy Resource and Development Bureau shall conduct energy research and studies in support of the activities of the Bureau and of the department, and provide consultative training and advisory services. Also, there is an Energy Planning and Monitoring Bureau, which I understand today is already the Energy Policy and Planning Bureau, and very specifically, its main function is only, in effect, a research arm of the Department of Energy. So, Mr. President, while I am one with the sponsor that indeed we should have a stronger research arm on energy. I feel that to create a new bureaucracy where we spend hundreds of millions of pesos, which we can, instead of strengthening an existing bureaucracy, is something that raises very difficult policy questions. You know, this is again another office where staffing, where 200 million will be used for operating expenses, apart from the funding that they can be secured from other grants, etc. So, as I said, we believe that we should examine this closely, and while we indeed are one with the sponsor that we need a good research division, a research outfit in order to strengthen our policy research area. I don't think that we have to create a new office when there is an existing office in the Department of Energy, because you know, having been in the bureaucracy, having been exposed to the bureaucracy for the last 20 years, I can almost predict that it is 200 million to start with. It's large enough. The energy, I mean the advice, the executive director of this agency will be authorized to recommend a position qualification and compensation plan for the employees. There is a management committee of research fellows, officers, employees. In other words, again, I would emphasize, we need to strengthen our research arm, but we do not have to create a new bureaucracy, and we can strengthen the existing bureaucracy in the Department of Energy, which by provision of law has exactly the same function as the proposed institute.
Mr. President, I do agree that I'm also not in favor of creating numerous layers of bureaucracy, especially different offices that will essentially duplicate the functions of other offices. However, Mr. President, I also came across this dilemma when we were hearing certain topics in the energy sector, Mr. President. Most often than not, Mr. President, the appointment of a secretary has some political leanings or political tones that comes with it. And the policy of a specific department, in this case, Department of Energy, also complies with the political tone of the administration. I'll give you a very specific example, Mr. President. This administration recently pivoted towards Russia and China for its foreign policy. With this current pivot, Mr. President, the energy policy also pivoted, Mr. President. And let me just point out to slide 3, Mr. President, and this is actually a very current news report that we came across a few weeks ago. A few weeks ago, DOE declared that nuclear power is a power that can be used here in our country in the long term, Mr. President. And definitely the entities that conducted due diligence in the Bataan nuclear power plant, advised the Department of Energy, are from Russia, consistent with the new pivot of the administration to Russia and China. Mr. President, the dilemma here is DOE now is proposing a long-term, or is proposing the long-term use of nuclear power here in our country. And nuclear is a very complicated fuel source, Mr. President. The use of nuclear also has a lot of risk, especially safety of our constituents. However, no one in the Philippines is also capable of determining whether this new policy to nuclear power is appropriate for the country or not. We have very little knowledge on this fuel source, very little experience, and this representation had a very difficult time tapping experts to really know whether nuclear power is a fuel source that is appropriate for our country, Mr. President. So the point of the matter here, Mr. President, is creating an independent think tank outside of the Department of Energy. This independent think tank will conduct research on a regular basis. Definitely, it will cover all types of fuel source, whether it's renewable, fossil fuels, nuclear. But the main feature of this think tank, it's independent. And it will be lodged under the University of the Philippines to tap the knowledge base of UP and as well develop future students in the knowledge of energy. So, Mr. President, this idea is actually not a unique idea. In fact, in the US, let me just point to slide 11. In fact, in the US, there are about 40 independent academe-based think tanks and about 80 non-academe-based think tanks that focuses solely on energy, Mr. President. In Germany, they have 5 academe-based and 8 academe-based, Mr. President. And in slide 12, these are just some of the US energy think tanks that are academe-based. And these think tanks are operating within the different prominent schools in the US. Some of them are part of the University of Chicago, which is actually a favorite think tank of mine that I use to gather information. Stanford, they have their own Environment and Energy Policy Analysis Center. University of Texas, they have a Texas Sustainable Energy Research Institute. Columbia, which is another school that I conduct research with, they have a center on global energy policy, Mr. President. So, Mr. President, we really need a lot of independent heads checking whether government is doing the right or executing the right policy for our country. Especially, energy is such a complicated industry. And it has a lot of interconnected characteristics that we need a lot of research and scientists and people who would crunch the numbers in order to know whether the policies being executed is the right policies for us, Mr. President.
Mr. President, in many of those research institutes abroad, these research institutes are privately funded by grants from individuals or companies who would be interested in the development of a certain sector. You have research institutes for cancer, research institute for different kinds of medicine, you have research institute for climate, for politics, etc. But many of these are privately funded. In our case, we are allocating our meager resources by creating another office when in fact we can devote those funds or much less of those funds in order to strengthen the existing research institutes in this particular case, the Department of Energy. The good sponsor mentions the political biases. When a secretary is appointed to the Department of Energy, there can be policy disagreements. Well, this is the nature of our government structure. The secretary determines the policies and woe unto these research units if they can come up with all kinds of research which will be ignored because it is not consistent with the policy of those at the helm of the Department of Energy. An independent think tank, a research institute, cannot correct policy biases of the Secretary of Energy, which presumably is the bias of the President. So that if this policy is wrong, then the President has to answer to the electorate in the next election. But this is the result of our system wherein the President is given the mandate. And that is why I don't think that an independent think tank will solve the problems being presented by the good sponsor, because the research and the policy thrust of the think tank, in this case the institute based in UP, can be disregarded by the Energy Department, and you cannot do anything about it because that is how our government is structured. There are policy issues which the Secretary of the Cabinets would adopt, and you assume, unless otherwise indicated, that these are policies of the government, not of some independent think tank who may have no mandate on this. So whether we like it or not, whether it is wrong, whether it is right or not, is something that we have to live with. And the fact is, a supposedly independent think tank will get its funding from the GAA, from the budget. And the budget is the policy instrument of this government. You influence policy by funding the activities that your administration would want to pursue because that is your policy. And therefore, you influence the budget. If, for example, Congress, as a policy-making body, does not agree with the thrust of the Institute, Congress is within its legitimate constitutional political right to cut off the funding, because Congress is the policy-making body. The Secretary is a policy-making person representing the President. So these are issues which could which to our mind puts the issue of funding separately research institute in UP open to question. We have no objection to having a research strengthening the appropriate offices in the DOE. We have the Energy Resource Development Bureau, specifically mandated under the law and under the Congress directive to, quote, conduct energy research and studies in support of the activities to develop domestic supply of local energy sources, etc. To strengthen the Energy Planning and Monitoring Bureau, which has a program funded by the US AID, if I recall correctly. The Energy Policy and Development Program is a 220 million peso project started about 4 years ago to strengthen policy making for environmentally sound energy sector development plan. The Energy Policy and Development Program is under the DOE. So research is being conducted along this area. And indeed, the Department of Energy Act of 1992 defines in very clear terms the function of the Department of Energy in conducting research. So are we now again creating another institution to conduct another research? Why can we not? The basic question that I raise, what is the rationale that we have to justify creation separate from the Department of Energy of a research institute and funding it to the tune of at least 200 million pesos per year and create a new bureaucracy.
Again, Mr. President, I'm one with the good minority floor leader about reducing bureaucracy. And in fact, we've filed some bills to this effect, Mr. President. I do agree that ultimately it's Congress that will be the reviewer of that policy being proposed by the executive branch. And ultimately, during the budget season, we have one of the best mechanisms to tilt that policy, to curve that policy, or to even stop that policy by the executive branch, Mr. President. But in order, Mr. President, to be fully aware and to fully appreciate the complexities of the energy sector, as well as to fully be knowledgeable about the energy sector in order for us to debate with the policymaker, in this case the Department of Energy, we need heavy research, Mr. President. And
that heavy research can be done by supporting and expanding the functions of the Bureau that conducts the research in the DOE. That's our premise, Mr. President.
Mr. President, that is possible also, Mr. President. However, the research normally conducted by the department is skewed towards a policy idea of the secretary and a policy idea of the administration. And that's really, I agree, that's really our system, Mr. President. But it's very difficult for example, in this case, the legislative branch to debate on that policy if we are not equipped with the knowledge and with the information and the research to debate on that policy, Mr. President. That's one of the issues and the problems that I face as the chairman of the Energy, is where do I get the information to debate with the Department of Energy? Because I very well know that the Department of Energy is already skewed towards a specific policy. Mr. President, I tapped several independent organizations, but again, this type of undertaking demands funds and demands a structure. That's why when we research how other countries are conducting their policy making and a healthy debate on their policy making, we found out that in other countries they have independent think tanks that support the constituency and also debate and discuss with the policymakers, Mr. President. This is actually a model that is quite effective in other countries. That's why the energy policy of other countries is much more robust, much more depth, and it uses data and research to implement that policy, Mr. President.
Well, Mr. President, at this stage, can we ask for the suspension of the interpellation? We would need to do a little more research
yes, Mr. President.
on the Research Institute.
Mr. President, I would gladly, this is actually one of my personal experiences as a chairman of the Energy Committee. And we would be faced with a lot of policy recommendation, a lot of requests for funding for a specific policy, specific program. But my roadblock to debate healthily with the Department of Energy is I don't have the manpower to conduct research. Even here in the halls of the Senate, we don't have a dedicated team to focus on energy. So this representation tapped the private sector to give us information and to conduct research. However,
don't get us wrong, Mr. President. We are not disputing the need for research. What we are disputing is to create another bureaucracy just for research when in fact there is an existing bureaucracy which can be strengthened and achieve the purpose, noble as it is, of the gentleman sponsor in pushing for the creation of an institute just for research. Because I don't really believe that the stated policies of the good sponsor in pushing for this measure is violated if we strengthen the pertinent research bureaus of the DOA. In any case, Mr. President, as we said, we need more time
Yes,
to
Mr.
research
President.
on the Research Institute.
Yes. Mr. President, just as a final word, that the concept here is the sense of independence of the think tank. And this independence will lead to a healthy discussion with the policymakers. Also, supplying information to the legislature in terms of when these policies are being talked about and debated, Mr. President.
Okay, session is,
No, wait. So we move, the good sponsors agreed to suspend the period
Yes,
of
Mr.
interpellation.
President.
is there an objection? The chair hears none. The motion is carried. Mr. Majority Floor Leader.
Well, if the motion is to suspend consideration on the matter, then we move on. Cynthia, wala na? Mr. President, may I have I move that we proceed with the reference of business.
Is there an objection? Chair hears none. Motion is carried.
Bill on first reading. 1694, an act penalizing the use of virtual currency in the commission of crimes. Senator Laila de Lima.
To the Committees on Banks, Financial Institutions, Currencies, and Justice and Human Rights.
Resolutions 628, resolution directing the appropriate Senate committee to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation into the complete terms and conditions of the loans entered into by the government to fund the Build program, thereby assessing the possible impact of such loans on our economy and national security. Senator Laila M. de Lima.
Refer to the Committee on Economic Affairs.
629, resolution directing the Senate Committee on Agriculture and Food to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation into the reported shortage of the National Food Authority's rice buffer stock, leading to a concomitant increase in rice prices in the country. Senator Laila M. de Lima.
Refer to the Committee on Agriculture and Food.
630, resolution directing the appropriate Senate Committee to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation into the failure of the government to efficiently utilize donations intended to assist the government in effectively combating the drug problem through the proper treatment of drug addiction, which failure led to the extremely underutilized mega drug rehabilitation facility in Nueva Ecija, and into propriety of further plans to construct other similar mega drug rehabilitation facilities in light of the failure of the first one. Senator Laila M. de Lima.
Refer to the Committees on Public Order and Dangerous Drugs and Health and Demography.
631, resolution directing the Committee on Labor, Employment, and Human Resources and other appropriate Senate committees to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation on the increasing incidence of abuse of OFWs. Senator Joel Villanueva.
Refer to the Committees on Labor, Employment, and Human Resources Development and Foreign Relations.
Additional reference of business, messages from the House of Representatives. Letter from the House of Representatives informing the Senate that on 12 February 2018 it ratified the Conference Committee report on the disagreeing provisions of House Bill number 6452 entitled An Act establishing a national mental health policy for the purpose of enhancing the delivery of integrated mental health services, promoting and protecting the rights of persons utilizing psychiatric, neurologic, and psychosocial health services, and appropriating funds therefore. And Senate Bill number 1354, an act establishing a national mental health policy for the purpose of enhancing the delivery of integrated mental health services, promoting and protecting persons utilizing psychiatric, neurologic, and psychosocial health services, appropriating funds therefore and for other purposes.
To the archives.
Letter from the House of Representatives informing the Senate that on 13 February 2018, it designated Representatives Hofer, Ramirez, Sato, Dalipi, and Cortuna as conferees to the Bicameral Conference Committee on the Disagreeing Provisions of House Bill number 6915 entitled An Act Establishing a Branch of the Polytechnic University of the Philippines in the Municipality of Sablayan, Province of Occidental Mindoro, to be known as the Polytechnic University of the Philippines, Sablayan Branch, and appropriating funds therefore, and Senate Bill number 1103 entitled An Act Establishing Polytechnic University of the Philippines, Sablayan Campus in the Municipality of Sablayan, Occidental Mindoro, to be known as the PUP Sablayan Campus, appropriating funds therefore and for other purposes.
Referred to the Committee on Rules.
Bills on first reading. 1695, an act to improve land transportation terminals, stations, and stops, appropriating funds therefore and for other purposes. Senator Grace Poe.
Referred to the Committees on Public Services and Science and Technology.
1696, an act promoting women participation and equitable representation in and by political parties, giving incentives therefore, creating the Women in Political Parties Empowerment Fund, and for other purposes. Senator Risa Hontiveros.
Referred to the Committees on Women, Children, Family Relations, and Gender Equality, Electoral Reforms, and People's Participation, and Finance.
1697, an act providing for the special protection of children in situations of armed conflict and providing penalties for violations thereof. Senator Grace Poe.
Referred to the Committees on Women, Children, Family Relations, and Gender Equality, National Defense and Security, and Finance.
Resolutions. 632, resolution directing the Senate Committee on Banks and Financial Institutions to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation on the Sangla ATM scheme and its alleged misuse by unscrupulous individuals and financial institutions so as to prevent the occurrence of more fraudulent activities in the future. Senator Grace Poe.
Referred to the Committee on Banks, Financial Institutions, and Currencies.
633, resolution directing the appropriate Senate Committee to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation on the severe pollution in Boracay with the end view of formulating policies to address the island's deteriorating state, protect its environment and ecology, and promote its sustainable development. Senator Sani Angara.
Referred to the Committees on Environment and Natural Resources and Local Government.
634, resolution directing the appropriate Senate Committee to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation on the economic effects of the Philippine government's deployment ban to Kuwait, including the economic impact on the repatriated overseas Filipino workers and their families, and those whose placement has been deferred in the wake of several incidents of death of overseas Filipino workers in said Arab countries. Senator Win Gatchalian.
Referred to the Committees on Labor, Employment, and Human Resources Development and Economic Affairs. Mr. Majority Floor Leader.
Mr. President, I move to adjourn the session until 3 o'clock in the afternoon of Tuesday, February 20, 2018.
Is there any objection? There being none, the session is adjourned until 3 o'clock in the afternoon of Tuesday, February 20, 2018.